Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Future Marine Scientists Student Opportunities Showcase. My name is Carlie Wiener, and I'm the Director of Communications and Engagement Strategy for Schmidt Ocean Institute. I'm so excited to be here today to talk with three of our previous Student Opportunities participants. Our program began in 2016, and since then has hosted 26 students from all around the world who have gone on to become marine technicians, professors, graduate students, and scientists. Our program focuses on giving opportunities to students who otherwise haven't been out to sea. Please help me welcome Dr. Melissa Anderson, Dr. Marty Mcneill, and Nicholas Yoshioka. We'll start with Dr. Melissa Anderson, who is an assistant professor of geology at University of Toronto. Melissa sailed on Falkor in 2016 on an interdisciplinary expedition to the Mariana Trench to look at hydrothermal events. Welcome, Melissa.
Hi, Carlie. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here as one of our oldest student opportunities. You started in 2006 when we began. Tell us a little bit about what it was like to be thrown into an expedition where you didn't know the crew, you didn't know the scientists, and how that influenced your own research.
Yeah, so I joined the cruise pretty early on in my PhD, and as a Canadian, there's not so many opportunities to get to sea. So I was really excited by the chance to get some at-sea experience and to explore for hydrothermal vents in an area that hadn't been explored for. But what I was most excited by and perhaps most nervous of was the fact that I'd be going to sea with some world-leading scientists, people whose names I had read in papers. And the group was led by Noah PML with Joe Reesing, Bill Chadwick, Ed Baker, David Butterfield, so people who I knew about, but I had never met before. So it was pretty exciting, and getting to know them and learning from them during the cruise was by far the most rewarding part of the experience for me. So I went in with no expectations of the cruise forming any part of my own research. I just wanted to go and contribute to their work in whatever way I could. And as the cruise progressed, near the end, we had collected all of this bathymetry over a huge area of the Mariana Back Arc, and after some discussions with the science party, they agreed to let me make some interpretations of this bathymetry. So I created some remote predictive geologic maps over 600 kilometers of this back arc. So these remote predictive maps are based on morphotectonic analysis of the bathymetry and interpretations of the acoustic backscatter with some ground truthing from ROV Sebastian dives. So this is the kind of thing that planetary scientists have been doing for a long time on Mars and the moon and Pluto, even Pluto's moon Charon. And it's something that we're starting to do more now for geology at a regional scale on the seafloor. So the purpose of this was really to convey complex geologic information in an easy to understand visual format, and it led to some new insights on the tectonic evolution of the back arc and the relationships between tectonics and magma supply. So it was all pretty exciting, and it turned out that it was published as a paper, which became part of my PhD thesis. And it's continued to inform my research program going forward. So right after my PhD, I was hired at the University of Toronto as an assistant professor. And I think one of the reasons why my application to this position was successful was because I had this opportunity to build networks and collaborations beyond just my immediate PhD advisor. So in the hyper-competitive landscape of academia, building these collaborations is really, really key. And I think that this cruise in particular and this opportunity was one of the things that allowed me to be successful and to now be in a position to start my own research program in Canada.
So do you think chances like the Student Opportunities Program are important to students coming up in sciences?
Yeah, absolutely, especially in Canada where we don't have that many opportunities to get to sea, especially for our students. Any opportunity like this to build these collaborations and the network and to get this at-sea experience is super important. So the opportunity to really spend months having in-depth discussions and throwing ideas around and learning and planning what you want to do with your life is really important. And the collaborations go beyond just the single cruise. So in my case, I'm still collaborating with the same NOAA PML group, and we hope to continue to explore in the Northern Mariana Mariana Backark and on Falkor in the next couple of years. As I said, like academia can be quite competitive. So the more that you can do to build your network early on, the better position you're going to be in.
We love those collaborative relationships, and that's certainly the outcomes we hope for. As an assistant professor now, how do you translate that experience to your own students?
Yeah, I want to be able to open the same doors that my PhD advisor, Mark Hannington, and my other mentors opened for me. So I really go out of my way to try to get these experiences and find open berths for my students, even if it's not related to their specific research program. And I also understand that I'm not as established as a professor or as a scientist as them. So I have to go even further to try to get these opportunities and allow my students to build these collaborations. Ultimately, the more opportunities we can find for our students and for the next generation of researchers, the brighter marine science is in the future. So it definitely helps me to understand the importance of these kinds of opportunities for my own students.
Thanks, Melissa. I want to turn our attention to Dr. Marty Mcneill now. She just completed her PhD in environmental geosciences from the Queensland University of Technology. She first sailed on Falkor as a student opportunities participant in 2017 and has spent a significant time on Falkor in the past year during our Australian campaign, and in fact became the first student opportunities participant to lead an expedition this past November, the Ice Age geology of the Great Barrier Reef. Welcome, Marty.
Hi, Carlie. Thanks very much for having me, and hi, everyone.
So tell me, how did a student opportunities program for you influence your work as you continued on with Falkor and with your own research?
Yeah, well, I guess similar to what Melissa was saying about the opportunities for students being fairly limited to get on research vessels and get ship time, and that's certainly the case down here in Australia. So since I was a student of opportunity participant with SOI on Falkor, I think that gave me a little edge over perhaps other students that were applying for other opportunities in Australia. So we had a postgraduate sea training experience on the CSIRO's Marine National Facility vessel, the Investigator, and that was a competitive application, and I put in an application for that, which was successful. And so I do think that having that student opportunities experience with SOI previously had just, I guess it had demonstrated my interest and my commitment to marine science and wanting to pursue that. And so I was then able to get the next student opportunity. And I feel like things have just kind of snowballed and broadened from there with these experiences building on one another as I've gained technical experience of living at sea and working at sea, understanding the operational side of things and equipment deployments and those kind of things. And so that, and meeting, networking with other marine scientists and building my networks and other research groups in Australia, then led, as you say, Falkor's been down in Australia and based out of Queensland, my home port Brisbane, for most of the second part of last year. So I was a scientist on an expedition in August with Geoscience Australia for a month, and then continued on, I think like Eric and Captain Pete were talking about this morning about pivoting these operations and things happening, cruises being organised within sort of 2.5 weeks, which is not the normal case whatsoever. But for me, it was an opportunity. So the pandemic brought opportunities for me. So then I was in the science party, and then on the next cruise, I was a co-principal investigator with Rob Beeman was chief scientist. He wasn't on board for the whole cruise. There were one leg he was on board, 2 legs he was remote on shore. So I kind of played a bit more of a leadership role on that cruise, and then subsequently on the next cruise had the opportunity to lead. So yeah, I feel like these experiences have just snowballed, which has been a really fantastic opportunity and experience for me.
Well, you certainly made it look seamless. And one of the other novel things that I feel like you got to experience as well was your PhD dissertation defense, which, not uncommon during the global pandemic for lots of people to defend remotely. But if you could share with us a little bit about why your experience was so unique.
Yeah, that's right, Carlie. So towards the end of last year, I was wrapping up my PhD, which coincided with these opportunities coming along to sail on Falkor, be in the science team, participate as a co-PI, and then as a chief scientist. And ordinarily, when you're finalizing your thesis and getting ready to wrap up your PhD, it's like, head down, and that's your sole focus, which it should have been for me as well. But those opportunities that came along, to me, were just as important, maybe even more so. And so there was no way I was going to turn those opportunities down. So I was living and working on Falkor and working on leading and helping to lead those cruises while I was finishing my PhD. And as you said, I gave my final seminar from the library of Falkor. I would have been probably delivering that final seminar remotely anyway, but so I did it from Falkor, which was quite a unique experience. It was a lot of fun. And although I was away from home and away from my university and my colleagues and what have you at home, which normally would have been supporting me through that, I had the Falkor family that I had gotten to know and love as I'd spent so much time on Falkor last year. And so I still had a support crew and delivered that seminar. And actually on board at that time, Rob Beeman from Cairns was on board at that time when I gave that final seminar. And he's been one of the colleagues and collaborators that I've worked with throughout my PhD project. We've co-authored a couple of some papers together. And so he was there for me as well. So I did have someone from my home team there with me, and we certainly celebrated with the Falkor crew afterwards.
Well, we certainly were behind you on that one and excited to see where you go next. I understand you have a postdoc, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I'd now like to turn our attention to Nick Yoshioka, who has joined us as well to talk about his experiences. Nick is an undergraduate student at UCLA's Institute of Environment and Sustainability and was also our youngest student opportunities participant, who sailed only at the age of 19 back in 2019 from Hawaii to Fiji. And Nick got to help with technology development on a new biological nitrogen fixation device. I had to write that down so I would remember. Nick, I'm so happy you could join us today. I know your experience was a little bit different, not joining an entire science team, but just a single engineer, scientist, and one other student. Were you able to get a hands-on opportunity to participate in some of the work being done?
Hi, Carlie. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. My experience was definitely, I feel like, different than other people's, but nonetheless, it was still a great experience, and I got to meet a lot of cool people. Unfortunately, I did not get to have a whole lot of hands-on experience. Our chief scientist, Sam Wilson, and his PhD student, Matthew Church, they were working on a new nitrogen fixation device, as you explained. However, we did have trouble troubleshooting the whole instrument just because of problems with hydrogen gas. As you know, it's like very small and it was just escaping everywhere. So there was a lot of problems with that. But I did get a lot of experience within ocean mapping, and that was something new for me. I got to see how the map was recorded, and as we were trailing along this one transect, it was really cool to see just on the huge camera where you could see like huge rocks and everything. And I got to play around with some of that data as well, and it was awesome.
So have you translated your own experiences or your experiences on Falkor to your own experiences?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of the work that I do now with coral, I kind of consider myself a coral or up and coming coral scientist. But a lot of the work I do with coral has to do with nutrient cycling. And so along with coral bleaching and all that, part of the lab that I'm in, we are looking at nutrient cycling within coral reefs, specifically coral reefs in the Polynesian islands. And so a lot of the work, even though I didn't get to work with the nitrogen fixation device itself, we kind of ran over a lot of the basics just so that when it did work, I was able to jump in and kind of help out and help fix the instrument if needed. And a lot of that took a lot of basic understanding of the nitrogen cycle itself. And so by applying all of that stuff that I learned from the Falcor to the research that I'm in now, I was able to kind of, I'm right now in the middle of proposing a scientific paper that I could hopefully get out soon, but that's with COVID and everything, yeah.
Well, your time on Falcor, you are a student at University of Hawaii and have since transferred to UCLA. So I'm sure you've been exposed to multiple science programs. In your opinion, what do you think some of the challenges and opportunities for young students coming up in ocean sciences?
Yeah, definitely. So I think if you're going into your undergraduate now, I think the greatest experience, I kind of have this saying of having research first and then education second, because I think that a lot of people go through their undergraduate not really expanding their horizons and what they want to learn. And so from my experience so far as an undergraduate, I've kind of dwelled into a lot of different sciences. I've kind of hopped into turtle biology for a little bit, oceanography, whether physical or chemical, and then coral reef biology. And so from a lot of that, I was able to kind of, see what was working for me, what wasn't. And from all of those experiences, just in general, I was able to keep a lot of contacts with researchers and professors. And so I think as an undergraduate, it's really important to just keep in mind that this is a time for you to experience and learn what you're good at and what you want to do for the future, and kind of, mark out, where you want to go. And so opportunities like this, like the Student Opportunities Program, is great for undergraduate students.
Thanks, Nick. It seems like the connection is kind of woven in through all of your experiences.
Yeah.
I really appreciate all of you being here today to share an intimate and in-depth look at how your experiences have influenced your work today. I wish you all the best with your exciting careers. Please join us now for our final session of the symposium, Managing a Thriving Ocean. Thank you for joining us.